Hello there, and welcome to Dream Myths. Yuan McLoy crouched amongst the heather, peering between branches at the dark stones jutting out from the hillside ahead, the ancient crypt of Clan McLoy, the resting place of his forefathers. He shivered, though not from cold. Since boyhood, he had felt an odd tingling whenever he neared the crypt, like the static in the air before a storm. His father dismissed such foolish fancies, demanding he focus on warrior training, but at 17, Yuan trusted his instincts more than his father's scorn. Something within this hollow tomb called to him tonight, beneath the full moon's glow. Creeping forward, Yuan translated the worn inscription over the entranceway. Here lie the honored dead of Clan McLoy. A heavy stone door grated open reluctantly, stirred by an unseen hand. His own. An eerie azure light spilled out, cast by phosphorescent mosses coating the walls. He whispered apologies to his slumbering ancestors as he descended the crumbling steps, the air growing heavy with the scent of age and forgotten power. Deep within, nestled on a stone altar, lay a small wooden chest. He felt an electric current surge through his fingertips as he lifted the lid, revealing a golden amulet shaped like the sun, glowing faintly from within. As he emerged from the crypt, the village alarm bells rang out. A skirmish with the English redcoats had left their lieutenant, Malcolm, gravely wounded. Desperation led Yuan to the man's side, and with a touch, a torrent of luminescent energy coursed from his hand, through the amulet and into the soldier's chest. The light pulsed, mending flesh and closing wounds with a soft, humming sound. Malcolm's gasps of pain turned to awestruck silence, and the soldiers surrounding them stared in utter bewilderment at the miracle before their eyes. Yuan's father, however, saw only the folly of his son's actions. With fury in his eyes, he dragged Yuan back to the crypt, sealing the door with a curse. "This is not the way of our people," he roared. "Such magic is for a bygone age, a dangerous path that leads only to ruin." But the seeds of destiny had already been sown. A few days later, Malcolm secretly met with Yuan, his face etched with a mix of gratitude and wonder. He explained that this gift, a forgotten legacy passed down through generations, was a sign of prophecy. He spoke of the Druids, the ancient wardens of the land who had long foreseen a time when their power would be needed once more. Just as he spoke, a sense of an immense, ancient presence fell over the land, A gust of wind rustled the leaves, carrying with it the scent of moss and ancient wisdom. A stooped figure emerged from the tree line. Fergus, an elder druid who had traveled for weeks, drawn by the sudden, unmistakable awakening of the old power. With a quiet grace, Yuan accepted Fergus as his mentor, ready to embrace the path his forefathers had walked. For weeks, under the tutelage of Fergus, Yuan began his education in the elemental arts. He learned to shift the weight of a stone with a mere thought, to whisper to the trees and hear their secrets, and to summon the raw forces of nature with focused intent. Fergus taught him that magic was not about power, but about balance, a constant dialogue between the wielder and the living world. The amulet was merely a conduit, a key to unlock what was already within him. It was during a meditation session that Yuan received a chilling premonition of an impending English invasion. He also discovered an ancient leather scroll hidden in a hollow oak, containing the precise incantations for a ritual to harness the primal power of the land itself. The scroll spoke of a maelstrom of earth, air, and fire, capable of turning back any army. As the time for the ritual approached, a shadow of betrayal fell upon the camp. Yuan caught Thomas, the blacksmith's son, attempting to steal the amulet, a bribe from the English to sabotage the clan's last hope. In a flash of raw, unfiltered anger, Yuan punished him, not with a fist, but with a surge of energy that sent Thomas reeling, a lesson in control that Yuan himself would never forget. On the eve of battle, Yuan and Fergus made their way to a ring of ancient standing stones. As the English army crested the hill, their drums echoing across the valley, Yuan began the ritual. He raised the amulet, and the air crackled with energy, a massive storm of his own making, a swirling vortex of wind and rain erupted from the sky. The very earth rose in his wake, a colossal wall of rock and soil that halted the English advance, and from his hands, gouts of fire incinerated their siege engines. The English, defeated and terrified, fled back to their ships. Following the victory, Yuan's father approached him, his face filled not with anger, but with profound regret. "Forgive me, son," he said, his voice trembling. "I was blinded by my own fears. You are a true guardian of our people." With their fate secured, Fergus revealed that his task was complete. "My duty was to awaken what was dormant," he said, his eyes twinkling with ancient knowledge. Now, the clans have a new leader, and their destiny is in your hands. And with that, he vanished into the mists, leaving Yuan to stand alone as the sun rose. The new druid of the clan, ready to face the world he had just saved. The weeks that followed were a blur of discipline and discovery. Yuan's apprenticeship under Fergus was a brutal, relentless process of breaking down his old self and rebuilding a new one. Fergus, with his weather-worn face and eyes as old as the hills, did not teach by rote. Instead, he forced Yuan to confront the very core of his fears and limitations. Yuan spent days in meditation, learning to silence his mind and feel the thrum of life pulsing beneath the earth. He learned to coax stones from the ground with a gentle will, and to command the winds to carry his whispers across the moors. Each triumph, no matter how small, was a hard-won victory over his own doubt. It was during one such trance that a horrifying vision seized him. It was not a simple premonition of war, but a tapestry of malevolence. He saw a shadowy force, a corruption seeping into the hearts of men. It was using a dark form of magic to twist the truth, turning clan against clan, feeding off their fear and discord. The English were merely pawns in a grander, more sinister game of power. The vision was so vivid that it shook him to his very core. And when he came to, he knew that the amulet and the ancient ritual were not just about saving his people from an invading army, but from a creeping darkness that threatened to consume their souls. The night before the great rite, a palpable tension hung over the clan. Yuan was making his final preparations when he saw a familiar silhouette slipping into his tent. It was Thomas, the blacksmith's son, his face pale with a mix of fear and desperation. He was trying to steal the amulet. Thomas didn't want coin or glory. He wanted to save his people from what he had been told was a coming disaster, a catastrophe Yuan's unnatural magic would bring, his mind poisoned by the whispers of the shadowy force. Thomas believed he was doing the only thing he could. Yuan's heart sank at the betrayal, and in a moment of raw, untamed fury, he unleashed a pulse of energy that threw Thomas against the tent wall, a silent rebuke that taught Yuan the true danger of his own anger. With Thomas subdued and the amulet secure, Yuan and Fergus made their way to the ancient stone circle. The English army crested the hill in a sea of red and steel, their banners fluttering like dark wings. With a deep breath, Yuan raised the amulet. As he began the incantations from the ancient scroll, he felt a profound connection to the land itself. He was no longer just a boy. He was the wind, the stone, the fire. The world swirled around him as he channeled the raw energy, a storm of his own making, a towering wall of earth rising from the ground, and torrents of fire erupting from his hands. But the power was overwhelming, a torrent he struggled to contain, and for a terrifying moment, he felt himself slipping on the verge of being consumed by the very force he sought to command. With a last desperate effort, he reined in the maelstrom, and the English, terrified by the sheer display of force, retreated in disarray. After the dust settled, Yuan's father came to him, his face a mix of shame and awe. His apology wasn't born from simple relief, but from a profound recognition of his son's destiny. The boy he had once scorned was now the guardian of their people, a warrior of spirit and will. As the clan celebrated, Fergus approached Yuan, a gentle smile on his lips. "My task is done," he said, his voice as soft as a whisper. "The clans have their new shepherd." And with that, he turned and faded into the twilight. Only a few raven feathers remained on the ground, a final promise that his spirit would always be with Yuan, a guiding light on the path ahead. The Scottish Highlands, a land of mist-shrouded peaks and glens, was a tapestry woven from the threads of three great clans: the Gordons, the Mackay, and the Campbells. For generations, a fragile peace had held them together. But beneath the surface, the ghosts of old feuds stirred. A palpable tension hung in the air, a silent prelude to a storm that threatened to tear their unity asunder and bathe the land in the blood of their ancestors. In a hidden grove, three figures converged, their faces etched with the wisdom of ages. This was the Druid Council, a triumvirate bound by a sacred, ancient oath. There was Callum, the fiery visionary; Moros, the cautious elder steeped in caution; and Ellie, the youngest, a beacon of calm wisdom, who was often the bridge between their disparate philosophies. They had gathered to perform the Maith elixir ritual, a rite of foresight only performed when the stars aligned with the fate of the clans. An old curse bound them to this act. They could only proceed if their hearts were united in a single, selfless purpose. To fail would invite not just ruin, but the utter annihilation of their people. The three elders knelt around a cauldron carved from ancient oak, its surface swirling with a dark, oily liquid. As they poured in herbs and whispered incantations, the elixir began to glow with an inner light. They drank, and the world dissolved into a maelstrom of visions. Each elder saw but a fragment of a greater mosaic of destiny. They were not given a single clear message, but rather disparate, scattered threads of a prophecy that they must piece together. Callum's vision was one of defiance and power. He saw a new celestial circle of standing stones, a bulwark of light that would shield the clans from all harm. Yet, a silent voice in his mind, both seductive and familiar, whispered of a darker path. It promised him the raw, unfettered power of the circle, making him the sole master of their shared fate. Moros, in contrast, saw the echoes of their past, a cataclysm born from a druid's hubris, a dark mirror of the very power Callum sought to summon. His vision was a grave warning, a reminder that some magics were best left undisturbed. To reconcile their conflicting prophecies, the elders embarked on a journey across the Highlands. They sought not just a common purpose, but the ancient, sacred stones required to build their new circle. Their quest took them to places long forgotten, where the magic of the old ways still pulsed beneath the earth. They faced trials of both spirit and will, each a test to prove their worthiness. They had to overcome ancient guardians, solve riddles of stone and stream, and confront the darkest parts of themselves. It was during their long and arduous journey that a moment of vulnerability broke through Callum's stoic facade. He confessed a terrible secret to his fellow elders. Years ago, in a reckless act of youthful ambition, he and his brother, Tag, had attempted to summon a powerful spirit. The ritual went awry. The spirit turned monstrous, and Tag was slain. The confession explained Callum's relentless pursuit of power. It was not for glory, but to atone for a loss that had haunted him for a lifetime. Moros, in a flash of insight, realized the tragic truth. Callum was trapped in a deadly loop, seeking strength to mend a wound that could never heal. The path forward was not one of more power, but of profound, ultimate sacrifice. The celestial circle stood, a testament to the journey the three Druids had undertaken. As the last stone was placed, a pulse of raw energy vibrated through the air, and from the very heart of the circle, a figure of pure light coalesced. This was Eos, the guardian spirit of the land an entity of both destruction and creation, its form shifting between a stag with massive, fiery antlers and an eagle with wings of pure light. Its voice, a resonant hum that seemed to echo from the very stones, spoke a single, unwavering truth. A selfless sacrifice is required to bind this circle and unite the clans. Eos tested them with 3 trials, each one designed to peel back the layers of their souls. The trial of persuasion forced them to articulate their deepest desires without using any words. The trial of control demanded they calm a tempestuous storm within themselves, and finally, the trial of wisdom forced them to confront their greatest sorrow. For Callum, the final trial was the most harrowing. He was transported to a bleak, desolate field of bones, a graveyard of lost hopes. There, he saw the ethereal form of his brother, Tag, bound by chains of regret and sorrow, the very ones Callum had forged with his guilt. Callum, his voice choked with emotion, begged Eos to restore his brother to life. But the spirit, with a voice full of ancient sorrow, refused. Your brother is not gone, Eos explained. He is now a part of the spirit world, a guardian of this very land. Your grief is what binds him, not death. You must let go of the past to embrace the future. The words hit Callum with the force of a physical blow. He finally understood. His endless pursuit of power was nothing more than a desperate, selfish attempt to undo a tragedy that was already written in the stars. He knew then what he had to do. With a final, unwavering resolve, Callum stepped forward and offered himself to the heart of the circle. He turned to Morosinelli, his eyes shining not with fear, but with a profound, peaceful love. My sacrifice is not an end, he said, his voice echoing with newfound clarity. It is a beginning. I will forever live within these stones, a shield and a guide for you all. As he spoke, he dissolved into a pillar of golden light, his spirit merging with the very fabric of the celestial circle. After his sacrifice, a profound sadness fell upon Moros. He embarked on a pilgrimage, visiting every sacred site they had passed, leaving behind a feather, a stone, and a flower in memory of his friend. Meanwhile, Ellie, now the sole leader of the Druids, guided the clans toward a lasting peace, her quiet wisdom a beacon in the newfound harmony. When Moros finally returned, he and Ellie stood before the circle, their hearts full As they looked on, a single beam of light shot out from the heart of the celestial circle enveloping them. The light solidified into a pair of identical Druid amulets, a final gift from Callum, a promise that they would forever be connected to him, to the land, and to each other.